My guest today is Paul, and he's a business development in business development for a software company. So, Paul, why don't you just give people just kind of brief introduction, kind of what you went to school for, who you work for now, and then we'll kind of just go from there, just like a brief introduction.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Susan. I appreciate the time and obviously allowing me to kind of give a little background on myself. Um, so to start in the present, more or less, I'm business development manager for a software company. We have a platform that helps sports teams, sports leagues, college teams, and college conferences create content at scale using AI. Um, I've been there for about a year. Now, to back up into my schooling, I was at Pace University. I graduated in the year 2017, which feels like a decade ago. Well, it's almost a decade ago, to be honest. I majored in marketing, and I think the full term of my degree is marketing with a concentration in advertising, promotion, and sales strategies. I believe that's what it was. It was a great experience at Pace. I learned a lot. I was able to kind of mold not only relationships and took my learning not only in the classroom but also outside the classroom, and being in the heart of New York City really helped with that.
Okay. And so when you think back to, your childhood, right? What would you say you were good at? Were you a naturally outgoing person? Did you love being around people? Were you good in sports or were you a straight A student? Like what was your personality that kind of like led you to want to go into that? You creative, just talk a little bit about your child because they always say, like when we're young, we don't know what a career is like, but we know what we do naturally
Right.
because we don't think about getting paid for it. It just comes natural. So, what came natural to you as a kid?
And that's a great question. I'll start with two stories. The first story that I get told all the time is that when I was very young, 5 or 6 years old,
Yeah.
my family and I would go on vacation. We'd be around the pool, and as a 5 or 6 year old, I'd walk around the pool to not only adults but children and just go, "Hi, I'm Paul. Hi, I'm Paul." So from a very young age, I had the confidence to kind of speak to people as if everyone was my friend. And then as I grew up, my great aunt Teresa told me that this was before I had a bachelor's, but she said I had a master's in BS.
Really?
Yes, she did. So I was always quick-witted and had really strong kind of oral communication skills, and in all my relationships, friendly and professional, I was able to talk to someone for hours about nothing. And I could still do that today. You could ask my wife; she has to tune me out. So it's something that was always with me, but it's not something I always thought I could have made a career about.
But you enjoyed it.
Always. I fear, not that I fear, but when you're in an elevator and it's very quiet,
Yes, I
and
worked in Manhattan.
yeah, I cannot stand the quiet. I need to fill it with some type of talk or something. So I don't, I make conversation. Small talk is like kind of second nature to me. I do not like silence in a room or in a meeting or anything like that. I always like to fill it with some type of small talk or conversation. And it just comes naturally. I don't have to try to do it.
Now, when you say small talk, give me an example of what you say to somebody.
Usually in all the meetings I take, the first 10 to 15 minutes is just me kind of talking with them. Oh, how long have you been at, your company? Oh, that's cool. What did you do before? Oh, did you always want to do something like this? And it just kind of flows. You see, that's the difference between someone that's like a really great communicator, in my opinion, and someone that has to try at it is that you take what you got from an answer and then you roll into the next one. You don't like hard cut. You don't go, "Oh, so do you like your company? Great. Where did you grow up?" It's not like, it's not
It's
that hard
slow.
stuff.
When you say that, is it because you're naturally interested in these people? Like, do you find yourself like doing more listening than talking, or is it just you just love people?
Yeah, no, and I think it goes back to something I learned in Pace, and it was a intro to sales or something like that. And he basically said to the class that one thing that everyone likes in this world, no matter who it is, and it's talking about themselves. And
Yeah.
so I don't think you could fake it. I don't think you could fake care to hear about someone speaking. I
Right.
think you generally have to be interested in what they're hearing and building that relationship. I think it's very easy to spot a fake, especially if you're used to these type of conversations. So I am always very interested in hearing what they have to say and finding a way to kind of, weave in things about me and really get personal with them and build that relationship because it's all about trust, especially in my business.
So then your approach is really not selling.
No, no. That's probably the last thing I want to do on these calls. I don't want to sell. The product speaks to itself. We fill a need at the company I'm at right now. We fill a need that luckily enough, our product is so great that there really is no competition to us. So
Okay.
what I'm doing is I'm building relationships because eventually, if it's not today, it's not tomorrow, it's not next year, eventually they'll come to us and they know who to reach out to and they have a relationship with me to some degree. Um, Alongside with that, transparency is big. So I'm not trying to sell on these calls. The product speaks for itself. I'm just trying to get to know the person and try to help them as much as I can.
Okay. So in your job, what percentage of your time are you actually selling, and what percentage of your time are you really just in building relationships and development? In other words, do you, do you have like a call list that says cold call these companies, or when you got the job, these were the existing, customers, and you would just like, do you have a Rolodex and it was like, okay, Paul, maintain these people.
Yeah,
So go into that. How much prospecting do you do, and how much kind of just kind of, keeping the relationship going and communication?
for sure. I'm in a unique position. Excuse me. I was brought on to help spearhead the college market within WSC sports. Um, the I was brought on. I have one other person, my direct boss. It's me and him, and we work on the college business internally. And basically, what we do is we're in land grab mode currently. So it's a lot of prospecting in that degree, where it's cold emails, cold calls. I don't do, um, but it's cold emails. The great thing about working in the college athletic space is that all their information is public. So just have to Google.
Get
Let's see.
there and okay. And what level of person are you dealing with? Like the
Within the college space, I kind of, jump around. It's very tough to get to the head of the department, the athletic director.
okay,
Um, but there's associate athletic directors, and then there's people below them. I don't discriminate. I reach out to a few people in each organization. Um, I've had
okay,
instances where I've emailed the AD, which is the head of the head, and they forwarded my email to someone that would handle it. So I've also had conversations where I started really low. And then from that first phone call, I got to someone higher. And then from that second phone call, I got to someone higher eventually. So there's different ways in. On the other side of the coin, I was given um, the a business that was already been established
okay,
across 32 clients.
okay,
Um, and transparently, it's an organization that has not really communicated with us in the past well. So on that side of the coin, it's all relationship building. They already are clients, and it's hey, let's have a 15-minute meeting. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. I want to get to know about you. What do you need? What's your vision for the future? Take me through your company and your style of work 5 years from now. Where the other one is like, here's the product, here's what we do, here's how we could help you, here's our other clients within the space. So it's a unique position where I'm doing both, and I couldn't be happier.
and so which do you like better?
Truthfully, it depends on who answers me. I mean, the cold emails are tough because
You don't know who's going to get back
sometimes
to you.
they go into a void, but when you do get a response, that feeling of getting a response is
Yes,
really nice.
right,
Really, really nice. On the other end, the book of business that I have that are already clients, it's about just getting to know them, which like we've talked about comes very natural to me. So it's
right,
it's fun and it's like, I could BS a little bit more. I don't have to be so on brand. I could I
right.
could I could get to know them on a deeper level than just professional.
Okay. So now take me back to other experiences you've had. Like
Yeah,
every, like the problem when you're in high school is you haven't had any experiences.
correct.
The only experience you had is sitting in front of a teacher, having them tell you to learn something and learning it, but you don't really get that personal feeling of doing something with what you've learned. So every job you've had, taught you something about yourself and molded you and and did you have the personal insight to say, "Oh, I could see I like this. Oh, I don't like this."
Mhm.
I, like I had a job where I was outdoors. What I want a job outdoors, or a job where, you're dealing with customers, every day, or you're dealing, I work behind a register. Do I want to deal with money? So,
Right.
without going to every job, just tell me, in general, what did your experiences tell you that yeah, I really, like this because I'm sure you learned stuff in school, but what you're talking about, talking to people, emailing them, school doesn't really teach you that, you know.
Right.
So tell me about your energy, because that's what I tell people a lot about. You could be energized by the environment, you could be energized, by the type of person you're dealing with. You could be energized by the industry you're in.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
tell me a little bit about, some of your experiences and what you learned. Because like, I mean, I worked in Manhattan and I know about those elevators.
Sure.
In an elevator, and it's like you're not allowed to talk, you're not allowed to smile, and you're not allowed to look at anybody. And it's just so unnatural to those of us who like talking.
Sure. No, absolutely. Off the top of my head, I'll take you through four very quickly and what
Okay.
each one kind of taught me on what I knew my personality was developing.
Okay. And
Oh, my-
also include in appearance. In other words, do you do a lot of in person or mostly over the phone? Because I know I worked in, public accounting and you had no personality. I mean, you had to
Sure.
wear a white shirt and a navy or gray suit. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? So how important is appearance to your to what you found? In other
Sure.
words, you like having to look the part.
Sure. No, 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 absolutely. I'll answer your first question with the four jobs and we'll jump into
Okay.
appearance.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first job I ever had in my
Okay.
whole entire life, the first time I earned real money was I was an umpire for a little league here in Brooklyn, where I'm born and raised. Uh,
Okay. So this
and
is before college.
this was way before college. This was probably before high school. This was probably in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So more or less, what that kind of showed me, because as an umpire, for those that are listening that don't understand its role, they control the game. They are the officiant of that game. They
Watch.
call the strikes. They call the outs. They call everything.
So you have to have a good eye.
You have to have a good eye and you have to be stern in your beliefs because a coach or a player can argue with you and you can't fold under pressure, or else they know that they have someone that they could kind of walk all over. And what that kind of showed me from a young age was that I like a leadership position. I
Okay, that's
like, I,
perfect.
yeah, I like to be in control, and I like to stand firm on my beliefs. So
Got a lot of
again,
confidence.
a lot of confidence, correct. Now, at the time, I didn't know that. Obviously, I'm looking back and hindsight is 2020,
Yeah.
but um, that's what that taught me. Now, going forward, I worked in a supermarket. This was more in high school, a little bit in college. I
Okay.
worked in a supermarket. I started working in the aisles as a stock boy.
Okay.
Something's low, go down the basement, get the stuff, put it on the shelf, so on and so forth.
Right.
I hated that job.
Okay. Why?
Reason why was because it had nothing to do with interaction. I
I
had
would
no
say that.
interaction whatsoever. Within that same sphere, I was there for about 2 or 3 years. Halfway through my tenure there, I moved over to the deli counter.
Okay.
Now, at the deli counter, it's all interaction. You're dealing with customers. What do they want? And making their experience enjoyable. I loved that. And to this day, if I could live off a deli man's salary, I would go back in a second.
Really?
I loved it forever. It was so fun. I had a sense of control because it was just me and another deli guy behind the counter.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a sense of control. It was my deli. It was I cleaned up, I put everything away. We wrapped up at the end of the night. And the great thing about it was that, you could interact with customers, you could give them a little sample and make it more than just a standard job. So again, that human interaction I learned I really liked there.
Okay, because not everybody that works behind a deli has that personality, but you
Correct.
more
Yeah.
than that to it.
And it kind of goes exactly, like I said, hindsight's 2020. I didn't know all this when I was doing it. The third job was actually my first internship that turned into kind of like a college gig. I worked for a company called Zico Coconut Water. They're a coconut water company that was formerly owned by Coca-Cola.
Okay.
And through that, I was more or less they called it a brand ambassador. So
Oh,
I would go to anywhere where the beverage was sold, usually like a Whole Foods, a Fairway, a Stu Leonard's, or events, and give out free samples of that coconut water and talk to consumers about the benefits, the cons, the pros. This is where the sales of me kind of got into it.
okay.
And again, I was outdoors, I was interacting with consumers, I was talking with them, and I was left alone. Again, the micromanaging thing is not a good fit for me. And it
You
was
like
an
to kind of do
awesome
your own thing, do your own thing.
track. And the fourth job and the final lesson that I think I learned where I am very confident in where my path is going was my first job out of college. I worked for NBC Universal in their creative department.
Okay.
And we would strategize. My role was content strategy. We
Okay.
would brainstorm. So we'd brainstorm, create, and then publish advertisements for brands. So we would come up with the whole concept, we'd shoot it, we'd produce it, we'd edit it, and we'd air it. Um,
Really?
and that's always what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in, content and advertising, coming up with ideas. And what I learned there is that as much as I like to be creative, creativity doesn't mean you have to go into a creative work field. Creativity is everywhere. You could be creative with every single thing. And if you look past at the three jobs that I listed, you could have went to that coconut water company and just stood behind a table and handed water and not said anything. But I was creative enough to talk to consumers and convince them that this is a good thing. The deli, like you mentioned, you don't have to have a personality behind a deli. You could cut the cold cuts and move on.
Yeah.
Um, Even the umpire stuff, if you could have just stood there, ball, strike, out. But
Yeah.
if you had a personality and creative about it, you could make it more fun. So I learned that through all of that, sales was the right path for me, and that creativity side of my brain that I love didn't
Yeah.
have to go away.
Right.
Didn't have to go away. To answer your second question about appearance, I came from an old school ad sales company that was very big on appearance. It was jeans, shirt, blazer, very old school stuff like that. Now working more in the tech space, what I'm wearing right now to you could be an acceptable outfit in an office.
Okay.
Um, but I don't think it's as much a problem now as it was maybe back in the day. But you have to dress the part when you're dealing with certain people. I think you dress towards the meeting that you're having
Yes.
rather than just have an outfit every day. If I'm talking to, let's just say, an athletic director at a college, he's in a windbreaker and a hat. I'm fine like
Right.
this.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to a commissioner of the NBA, for example, I'm
Right.
going to be in a suit.
Okay.
So it's based on the type of meeting you're having and where you're having it. I think that's the thing. Day to day, I think appearances. I always say it's not the suit or the clothes. It's the person that wears the clothes,
Right.
um, and that could shine through more than having a nice t-shirt on.
So when you work most of the time, right?
Mhm.
Are you in an office dealing with people over the phone, or are you out actually meeting people or on Zoom calls with people?
Yeah, I would say 70% of it is on Zoom, and 30% is in person when we go to conferences or visits with clients. It's a good mix for me.
Okay.
Um, but if you treat a Zoom Zoom nowadays allows you to kind of see someone's face and read the social cues, and it's almost like in person. It's not the same, but you
Right.
can still kind of get that feeling.
Okay. So what did you learn about yourself with appearance? How, in other words, if you had your choice, what are you more comfortable with? Because I had a friend who worked for an entrepreneurial company, a young entrepreneurial company. He loved wearing suits, but when he got the job, you weren't allowed to wear a suit. You had to wear jeans and a t-shirt. You
Right.
had to, and he just didn't fit in. You know,
Yeah.
he liked dressing up. So for you, what's your,
For me personally,
yeah,
um, I am a stern believer in look good, feel good.
okay.
So, a blazer on, jeans, nice shoes, a nice shirt, or a button down, I'm at my peak confidence.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I have a nice put together outfit with a quarter zip or a cardigan or something like that along those lines, I'm fine. As I think I look good. I'm not going to speak to what people look at me as, but as long
Right.
as I think I look good, my confidence is at an all time. So I really do think whatever you're comfortable with as a human being, if you think you look good, then you're going to feel good and that's going to shine and that's going to be the highlight, not so much your outfit.
You see, you're in a people profession, but when people are techie, you notice how they really don't care about their appearance, techie types.
Oh yeah, no, our leadership, like I said, I came from an old school
Right,
head
right,
sales company, and if I were to meet with the CEO, they would be in a full-blown suit. Part of my interview process for this current job, I had to meet with the CEO and the CBDO and some of the founders of the company, and they're all in t-shirts. And it was like a complete mind shift. But what I've learned is that that's what they're comfortable with. They're not being told to wear a suit, to not wear a suit. And it creates a relaxed atmosphere when you can kind of decide which way you want to go.
right, right. So you feel comfortable knowing that your personality can be expressed in the way you feel comfortable dressing, as long as you
Absolutely.
feel it. But you feel your appearance is really important to you.
Yeah, no, and I think, it's the first thing people see about you, right? As vain as that sounds, before you open your mouth, before you make your introduction, they look at you, they see what you're wearing, and they instantly have a judgment, whether they mean to do it or not. So I think you need to put yourself together to a degree, um,
Right.
to allow them to kind of break into the conversation and then let your personality shine.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so when it comes to sales,
Mhm.
like I've interviewed, a lot of different, people in sales, and some people will say, I have to believe in my product, otherwise I can't sell it. And other people are like, I could sell anything. So where do you fall in that? Do you, like, in other words, what attracted to you, your company was because you believed in the product, or, you could sell anything, it really didn't matter.
I could probably sell anything, but I wouldn't really be able to sleep well at night. So I think having a belief in the product is very important, and it allows you to be transparent. And I think transparency is an easy way to sell. Being a sales guy,
Yeah.
connotation, or a salesperson rather, you have a connotation of just, you're trying to make a buck. But what transparency allows and the belief in the product allows you to do is be more of a partner than just a vendor.
Yeah.
So being a partner is important to me because these clients are coming to me with questions like, what do you think? Should I do this? Should I do that?
Right.
What can I do here? And that's what sold me on the company I work for now is that they truly believe in partnership over a transactional relationship where
Okay.
I'm not talking to my clients once a year every time they need to sign a new contract. I'm talking to my clients throughout the year, getting to know them. They're relying on me, I'm relying on them, and it becomes a symbiotic relationship. And that really fuels me as a salesperson that the product's good. They could look at us as partners and that we could build something together. And it's not just thanks for the money, have a good life.
So do you have a schedule of follow-ups with people? Like, do you have a list of all your clients or customers and have like a schedule of when you follow up, or is it, when you get an email and they need something?
I kind of, I try to stay organized. Um,
Okay.
with trackers and everything like that, but
Right.
usually it's kind of off the cuff. I'll be thinking
Okay.
throughout the day, oh, I haven't heard from him. I haven't heard from her. Let me see what
Right.
I'm doing. The thing I want to maintain though is there's a thin gray line between being prompt and being annoying.
Yeah.
So I don't want to saturate their inboxes with follow-ups. I need to, and this is something my boss taught me. It's that if they don't want to be bothered, they don't want to be bothered, move on. You
Right.
don't need to crawl up there, you know what,
Yeah.
to get them to talk to you. They'll come back, they'll talk to us eventually, move on. So that's kind of the way I maintain it. I also look at the trades, right? So I follow things specifically in the sports space, like Front Office Sports, Sports Business Journal.
Right.
Um, and if I see a client's name in an article, that's an easy way in. I'd send it over to them and be like, hey, listen, I saw this article. That's pretty cool. By the way, how have you been? Be great to catch up. Or if it's not a
Right.
client, I'd do the same thing in a way to kind of get a conversation going.
And I got to ask you two quick questions. One, how are you with like being sensitive to people's energy? In other words, like you said, as a 5-year-old, you just went up to people. Were you sensitive to like some people, were happy that you said hello and other people weren't? And even now when you prospect with people, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah,
one
no,
thing
I get it.
for you to be approaching somebody, but they have to be receptive. So have you kind of mastered being able to like observe somebody and know, okay, this person I could joke with or not? Or do you have to talk to them first? And how do you react when they're not always receptive? Because I'd
Yeah,
be
no,
interested in hearing that.
that's a great question. I think the term is like mimicking, basically like mimicking someone's
Yeah,
behavior. Um, I truly believe everyone has a personality, even if it's hidden under layers of seriousness. Um, but I do kind of react to, if in my first 5 minutes I'm talking to them, how's your day going? And they just say good. They don't elaborate or anything like that.
right,
I can understand that they want to get down to business, that maybe it's something that they don't want to develop right now. And
right.
I think it goes to the respect of someone's time. Um, if you're not gonna, for when I'm meeting people, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk
Yeah,
about you.
right.
Um, except in this instance, I'm talking a lot about me and not so much about you, but I understand the context.
Right,
So if they don't want to engage, I could totally respect that. But I'm not as great, at it as I should be because I do want to get to know them. I'm dying to kind of break that shell of theirs and open up, but there's a time and a place for everything. Over beers, it's a lot easier to do. In a
right,
Zoom meeting on a random Tuesday, maybe not so much. So it's
right.
a game that you balance, but definitely for sure, I try to gauge whether or not they're going to be reactive to kind of just the BSing that I want to do.
And what about you? How do you feel when you're rejected? Because most salespeople will say, there's a lot of rejection, but when I look at you and I listen to you, I don't feel any of that. I don't feel any, um, I don't know what the right word to say is, but I don't feel any, um, like that, you get rejected all the time. It's not enjoyable, like I mean a lot of salesmen say, it's 90% rejection. Like with your energy, it's like, oh, move on to the next one. It's like I don't feel like it affects you. Like, am I reading you right?
Yeah, no, you're 100% spot on. And listen, there is a lot more no's than there are yeses. I'll tell you that
You
right
never said that.
now. No, yeah,
You never even made me feel like you get no's.
yeah, no, no,
You
there's
come across like it's like I just love people, and it's like,
yeah,
oh, well, I'm just
there,
that's the way you come across. You don't come across as anybody who's down and out. Like you just seem like you bounce back so easily.
yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot more no's than yeses, that's for sure. But I put myself in their shoes, and I think this is important for any salesperson to do. It's that when you get an email trying to sell you a product, do you want to answer? No, you hate it. Like, when you go to a mall and someone's trying to spray perfume on you to get you to, you don't, it's annoying, right? But I
Right.
if you take it personal, you're not really built for sales. If you think that someone is not answering your email because they hate you personally, it's not that whatsoever. It comes down to luck. There needs to be a need in their mind, and you need to
Yeah.
hit their inbox or their phone at the right time, then to develop a relationship. So it doesn't affect me whatsoever. I'm happy to have 20, 20 to 30 conversations a day with no results. I'm fine with that. It's not about that. It's about touching that first point, letting them know you're here. And then if, doesn't happen today, it doesn't happen tomorrow, it'll happen next year. And I have to say, this really does come from the mentality of not only the company, but my direct supervisor, who is just, I mean, he's been such a great mentor to me. It's just, there's no pressure from him. A
Yeah.
lot of sales leaders will pressure salespeople to sell,
Right.
sell, 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 sell. Where I'll tell them, oh yeah, they said they're out for this year. He's like, nah, well, it happens. So I'm giving that freedom to kind of just go, 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 and not worry about the no's, just focus on the yeses.
Okay. So do you have certain quotas already that you have to achieve or
No, not necessarily. We do have goals, but they're not hard quotas, which is unusual for a sales organization. But there are definitely revenue goals that are put on
right?
each team, and those numbers they're big,
Yeah.
but you can't you can't think about the finish line when you're not even starting yet.
Yeah,
Whoever you are,
you're
you
enjoying the
can't.
process.
Yeah, you have to stay in the process, not the finish line.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you two more questions. Okay.
Shoot.
One, I'm not a natural saleswoman at all, but when I've spoken to salespeople, they say, "Oh, here's the script. Just follow the script." I'm
Mhm.
sure you know the script.
Yes.
It's what's your problems? What's it costing you not to solve it? What if I had a solution that could do it? So I just want to know, as somebody in sales, I'm sure you've seen the script. Everybody has. Do you ever use a script? Do you ever use that line? So what's your problem? What's it costing you? If I had a solution, would you be interested? But that whole kind of psychological, step formula. So just because you never mentioned that either. Like you seem like your approach to sales is, hey, let's have a conversation.
That's and you nailed it. Starting at the company, not you're given a script. My boss provided me what he says.
Okay,
Um,
script.
and the first thing he said to me was, I want you to take this and then I want you to kind of make it your own because you're not me. You're not
Yeah.
going to sound like me. You got to
Okay.
develop your own traits. So I did. And I truly, there's one part of my pitch, I guess you could say,
Okay.
that in the beginning that is going to it sounds salesy,
Right.
which is the opposite of what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have a conversation with you. I want you to ask questions. I want you to engage. And the one thing I'm guilty of, I stop for a lot of questions throughout my pitch because truthfully, I don't want to talk the whole time. I want you to ask questions. I want to answer them. I want you to be like, can I do this? Can I do that? And I'd rather do that because it's more beneficial for you. And I
Yeah.
think the one thing as far as scripting goes is it kind of doesn't allow you to tell a story. It
Right.
doesn't allow you to show the person that you're speaking to, this is how it's going to change your workflow. And that's a big part of my pitch and my overall is telling a story. So I want to go, say for example, it's game day, right? A game just wrapped up. You want to come into the system and put together a highlight package to go out to your YouTube page. Then
Right.
from there, I would go, here's what you do. Game just wrapped, you go to game, and I take them through the steps. And then
Right.
I say, on the other end, say it's the week of a game and there's a player on your team that you're naming offensive player of the week. And you
Right.
want to put together a little package for them. Okay, here's what you do for that. So again, it's telling a story and having them envision themselves using the product instead of
Right.
me just saying, this is what the product could do. It's allowing them to feel it in the moment.
Right. Okay. So, so one last question.
Shoot.
Um, if you had to give people advice,
Mhm.
People listening that might be in a career they don't like or whatever. They always tell you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, but I don't believe, work is still work.
Right.
So, understanding your personality and stuff, like I know for me, I like talking to people. I love interviewing people. When I was an accountant, I didn't have an opportunity to do that, and it really just sucked the life out of me. So what advice would you give people? And this is the most important thing about understanding who you are, understanding that self-reflection that's so needed, as opposed to the advice of, comment on LinkedIn pages and get your resume together, get credentials. I'm talking about the importance of understanding you. Like you see how, as much as you're, you know, whatever, how old you are,
Mhm.
you almost talked more about when you were a kid.
Yeah, I'm almost 30. I'll be 30 in May.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm
but what
still in
I'm
my 20s.
yeah, I know you're still young, but I'm talking about you talked about five.
Yeah.
You talked about, something you did in, junior high school. Like those experiences really, they really tell the story. Like we don't give credit enough to really, not putting ourselves in a box that you naturally, in other words, when you were, 16, did you think about what made you a good empire?
No, no way. I mean, as a
Like,
kid, you don't think about the next 5 years. You barely think about the next day.
okay, okay, so that's my question. Okay, when did you do the self-reflection? Like I could see you smiling. It's like, okay, when did you actually put these pieces together and say, hey, I'm a pretty cool guy. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty I am pretty good at these things.
I don't think you ever stop self-reflecting. I think it's super important to be aware, and just think back on things. What the old adage is, when you stop learning, you start dying. So I think it's super important to constantly self-reflect, not only about your past experiences, but what you're doing in your day-to-day job that you like and you don't like. There's things within my day-to-day that I really love, and there's some instances that I don't really love. So I constantly think about that, and allow myself to know what avenues I'm really enjoy, what avenues I need to improve. But to your original question about advice, and I think it goes twofold. For college students, I recommend one thing and one thing only: enter college undecided. Do not commit yourself. I know that's unpopular opinion, I guess, but go into college undecided. Don't put yourself in a box when you're 18 years old and you're a freshman in college. Do not put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to enter every single classroom with an open mind, seeing what you like and what you don't like. Because right there is the first step in deciding what you like and what you don't like. For professionals that don't like their current job, um, I will say two things. The first is a job is going to suck no matter what you do. Monday, 9 a.m., you're going to hate going to a job. But
Yeah,
what helps you there is the people. So fall in love with the people because the work will always be the work, but the people make the day go by faster. So people is very important in sense of, community. Like you were saying, you were an accountant, and my brother's an accountant, so I know, the interactions are limited. You're not really talking to people every day. You're kind of head down doing your own work. And
yeah,
some people are really good at that. They want to be isolated and just focus on their work. Some people aren't. But if for me personally, the the atmosphere of a company is more important than the work itself. And the
really.
second is it's never too late to change paths. Don't think because you have a finance background that you can't go into creative or creative into finance. I've seen it done a million times. It is not impossible. Now, will you might have to take a step back in a direction? Sure, but how much do you value your work, your
Yeah,
happiness at work? That can kind of balance it out. I think it's important to constantly self-reflect, always go into something with an open mind, And more importantly, it's never too late to change directions.
Well, that's great advice. Really great advice. So is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything that I didn't ask you that maybe you want to say about yourself or career advice or whatever?
Yeah, and I think, go back to something that I mentioned earlier on in our conversation. It's that creativity can really change your life. Um, don't think that all because you're not, you know, painting pictures or making music or making advertisements or making movies that you can't be creative. Um, Creativity is not, bound to one industry. Creativity is abundant, it's everywhere, and it will help spice up your day to day. The other day where I'm having a problem, getting this one product in the hands of a client, and me, my boss, and a couple other people sat together at our desks and just threw things around each other. What if we do this? What if we package this with that? And that alone made the day so much easier. And we were bonding, we were joking, but we were coming up with ideas. You could do that in every single industry ever. And the second thing I would say is don't be afraid to reach out to someone that you don't know on LinkedIn, in your network, a friend of a friend. Um, People will get you into positions, not resumes. That's basically it.
That I would agree with. That
So I think a people first approach in any type of job, especially in today's market with the abundant of applicants, you need
yeah,
to know someone or at least make contact with someone about a position in order to kind of get that move.
right. That's perfect. All right, Paul, thank you very much for the interview today. It was really fun, learned a lot about you, and wish you all the best in your career.
Thank you very much, Susan.